Welcome on in, YouTube. We're here with Legendary Drops talking about the Schedule 1 as a problem. I don't know what he means, but I'm excited to hear about it. I haven't played this yet, but it looks fun. The gameplay loop looks solid and engaging, and according to everyone who's played it, it's addictive. All right, give him a like and sub if you like, and give me a like and sub if you like me. Let's get on into this one. It's going to be a long one, 26.
Have you guys noticed how increasingly more common it's becoming for some of these indie games to come out of left field and just absolutely decimate?
Yes.
I'm talking player.
Yes, it's phenomenal. I'm really enjoying all the... I think if AAA games were doing what they should be doing, then we probably wouldn't even have a lot of these games. Like Supermarket Simulator and Lethal Company wouldn't have popped off the way they did. All these indie games are just... They're so much fun, and they're so much cheaper. And I don't know how the AAA industry can just look at that and be like, oh, these are problems. We don't need to do better. We need to make sure they go away.
Numbers and sales that are embarrassing AAA games. Games made by one guy beating teams of 1,000 developers, tens of thousands if we're going to count Ubisoft in this conversation. Well, probably not for long, but Schedule 1 is a game about friendship. It's about making connections.
No,
it's about starting from the bottom and working your way up. It's a game about drugs. It's a game about drugs, which makes it all the more ironic for how addicting the game is to play. But I'm seeing this game all over the place. It's on Twitter, it's on Reddit, it's on YouTube, it's on Twitch. My buddy who just got his first gaming PC opens up Steam for the first time, and it's the first game that he buys. Games like Schedule...
He's got good taste. Man's got good taste.
1 are becoming a problem because these games are beating out games that are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to make their games. They're doing it without any marketing. And worst of all, they're cutting out the middleman.
They have the best marketing.
You can't have that.
Being fun and one person with a lot of viewers playing them, and then it gets spread around. God, it's so good. Like, do you guys see how Michimo Chibi played Thank Goodness You're Here, and then started just sending it out to everybody? And then, like, Ariel, she played Five Hearts Under One Roof, and then kept telling everybody to play it, and then also B-side. But mainly I remember the Five Hearts Under One Roof just because of her screaming about loving women. Like, it only takes one person to spread it to everybody else about just how pure fun or interesting the game is, and how it's not $60, $70, $80 Nintendo.
Because once you start doing those kind of things, when you have that kind of freedom to create and you're reaching that kind of success, you're going to start to attract some unwanted attention. And that's exactly where Schedule 1 is today. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about the insane success of Schedule 1, my experience playing it, and why an industry that's ran by investors can't let games like this exist. Schedule 1 released 2 weeks ago, and within days, it already climbed the Steam charts. As of recording this video, it is #1 top seller on Steam. It is #4 for...
Whoa. Okay. I want to see the #1 top seller on Steam. Okay, Schedule 1. That's a $19.90 price tag, and it's still selling more than Counter-Strike 2. That's free. And Marvel Rivals, that's... Well, to be fair, everyone who wanted to play Marvel Rivals is already playing Marvel Rivals. These are just like leftover people who are finally jumping on the bandwagon. Repo, $9.99. Great multiplayer game. That's understandable. Steam Deck, I don't know why that would be a game. Does that count as a game? $399, that's the system itself. I don't know why that would be the game.
Top seller on Steam. It is #4 for concurrent players, and it recently hit a...
Ooh. Rust is still going strong. Rust is going stronger than Monster Hunter Wilds. I guess everybody's done with Monster Hunter Wilds. I heard that was a short game. So that might be why. I don't know what Bongo Cat is. What is that? Source? Banana is still going? What in the world? Are the bots still farming banana?
A peak of over 450,000 concurrent players and now averaging 340,000 concurrent players per day. It's currently outperforming Path of Exile, which just released new content, edging out Monster Hunter Wilds after its first title update, and it's completely humiliating the quadruple A spectacle that is Assassin's Creed Shadows.
What number is that? Oh, what number was Does it say what number Assassin's Creed Shadows was? I don't see a number. I really would like to know.
Well, that is Assassin's Creed Shadows. Schedule 1 is another entry in what is becoming an increasingly common trend. Indie developers releasing games with little to no marketing and watching them explode across the internet. Think Undertale, Stardew Valley, Vampire Survivors, Valheim, Palworld, Balatro. Games made by a single developer or a tiny team delivering exactly what players have been missing and absolutely dominating the charts.
It's not hard. They're like, so many people are doing this. It's beyond me how they cannot understand what their problem is in the AAA scene.
The game was developed by Tyler, an independent developer out of Sydney,
Tyler,
Australia,
one
working
guy.
under the name Tyler's Video Game Studio. I laugh every single time I read that. Tyler handled nearly every
Good for
aspect
Tyler.
of the game himself, designing the game, programming it, systems, and the art, but he had some help with collaborators like Kay Sewell, who's the one that composed the game's catchy soundtrack. Seriously, I've been jamming that music in the background while I've been writing now, and Cody, too, who created some of the game's graffiti. Now, despite its niche, the game has resonated with an enormous audience, and I think part of that has to do with the genre. Schedule 1, at its core, is just a crafting sim. You start with nothing and you work your way up through progressively more complex crafting systems, increasing your wealth, unlocking more neighborhoods, and expanding your influence. It's a familiar loop, or one that I definitely hooked myself on quite a lot with games like Terraria, Valheim, Enshrouded, or Minecraft, but Schedule 1's twist is the plot. You're essentially a small-time dealer growing your own product, refining it, selling it, and building out a crew to be able to help you scale out. I've personally sunk over 50 hours into the game now, and I've nearly unlocked everything short of the final neighborhood, and I'm completely sold. I keep playing the game every chance that I get. I love games like this, open-ended crafting sims where you get to define the pace yourself, experiment with systems, and you get to feel like your time that you're investing into the game directly translates to actual growth within that game. You can be methodical, you can squeeze every little bit of value out of all of your resources, or you can brute force your way through, scaling up as fast as possible. Hell, you can even automate the entire process, so the game basically just plays itself. It's up to you. Don't laugh at me for getting technical, but what I think makes this game really special is how seamlessly it transitions between its two core gameplay loops, production and social progression. The first loop, growing and crafting, is simple at first. Plant a seed, water it, harvest a flower, but over time you start to get access to additives, fertilizers, environmental controls, and scalable infrastructure. Every plant that has its own unique traits, cost, potency, NPC demand. Then comes in the mixing system where you can start to enhance products with different effects, like making NPCs shoot out lightning, walk around on clouds, or turn them into aliens or zombies.
You can make drugs that cause people to shoot lightning or turn them into zombies? What?
It's ridiculous, but it serves a purpose to increase the product's price and its appeal to your customers. I found myself lost here for hours experimenting with different mixtures and different orders of those mixtures and different effects that they could have, and now I have an 8-buff recipe, completely automated, and it's listing the product for over $1,000. That feels good. Which then that brings me to the game's second loop, networking, and as your operation grows, you start to target different specific NPCs based on their preferences. You start to build rapport, earn trust, unlock new customers, recruit new crew members, and eventually get access to new suppliers.
Them glowing is because they're taking the zombie drug.
They're going to boost your overall operation. It's a system that blends an emergent strategy with good old-fashioned trial and error, and it's surprisingly deep. Look, I'll be honest with you guys, I completely assumed that this game's popularity was mostly due to its shock value. It's not every day that you see a game about selling powder and flour to cartoon NPCs become a top seller, but the longer I played, the more I realized how satisfying all of its core systems really are.
You'd be surprised how satisfying some of these simple games can be, man. Like, I just finished 100% Extreme Life Simulator 2. It was pretty solid. It was very confusing at the beginning because they don't really explain a lot to you. After trial and error, oof.
It's not just the subject matter, it's how involved you are in the process.
I started that game yesterday, and it's already 100% in like 14 hours. Booyah.
And honestly,
I was playing it so long, I didn't realize it was 2 a.m. And then I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go to bed.
I think that's something that a lot of modern games have largely forgotten. In a lot of ways, the game actually reminds me of all the things that I really loved about Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is a crazy comparison to make.
God, I'm so excited for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I'm so excited for that. We're probably going to play that after the month of Game Pass, because I'm so excited to play that. I don't want to pay full price if I don't have to, but I really want to play that, man. I've been playing like the Spiffing Brit video on loop. I'm not sick of it yet.
When you think about it, but when you're crafting a potion in that game, you're picking the herbs, you're grinding them manually, you're boiling them, you're maximizing your yield based on real input, you're smithing swords with a hammer and timing it perfectly, you're controlling the temperature, you're properly sharpening weapons. This game makes you feel like you're doing that sort of work. Schedule 1, despite its goofy presentation, accomplishes something very similar here. You're adding ingredients, you're testing combinations, you're watching the effects, packaging your own product, and you're hitting the streets to make sales. The feedback loop is immediate and immersive, and it's not about watching a progress bar, it's about feeling like you're actually earning something by doing it. And it never loses its charm. The art style is crude in a deliberate way, full of absurd and surreal-looking NPCs with exaggerated animations. You're hiding in dumpsters. The game's fastest vehicle is a golden skateboard, and you're brewing concoctions that warp the laws of nature itself. But underneath all of that madness is a tight, responsive, and deeply satisfying gameplay loop. You're laughing 1 minute, and you're planning your expansion strategy the next. I love that every system feeds into one another. Want to automate your production? Well, you're going to need to build out, buy some infrastructure, and hire some employees. Want to scale up quickly? Well, you're going to need to build rep with your suppliers to be able to make more product. Want to maximize your profit? Well, you're going to need to mix with precision and cater to customer demand. Yet, at the exact same time, you can ignore all of that if you want, but if you want to dive in, you're rewarded for it. There's a surprising amount of freedom in how you approach everything. You can have your crew pushing your product while you're the one that's focusing on crafting. You can work solo and micromanage every step. You can run your empire in real time during the day and then focus on restocking and production at night. The game never really forces you into one particular playstyle, but everything feels intuitive enough that you always feel like you're making some sort of progress. I think what Schedule 1 proves yet again in this
Was he about to give a zombie drug to a priest? Bless.
case, especially when it comes to these indie games, is that the gap between indie and AAA has never been wider. I mean, I never take the time to analyze or even notice these kind of things if they even exist in AAA games. Their games are so bloated, overproduced, obsessed with cutscenes and cinematic presentation, often to the detriment of the actual experience. Schedule 1 is the opposite, and I love games like this. So do the players. That's obvious enough. It's lean, it's focused, it's gameplay first, and it works because it never forgets what players are actually here for.
At least you know who's already taking your drug when their skin is glowing green. Easy mark.
Schedule 1 only costs $20. It delivers potentially hundreds of hours of content, strong systems, tons of replay value, and a surprising amount of multiplayer depth. It didn't need a cinematic trailer. It didn't need a live-action ad campaign. It didn't need pre-order bonuses or influencer hype. It just needed to be good, and that was enough. This is going to sound ridiculous. I'm trying to think of the best way to be able to explain it. The graffiti on the wall is oddly relatable. Makes me feel like one of my friends could have made this game, and I think that has something to do with the game's popularity. Because
they're just
the
some
inside
chill
jokes,
dudes
the naming
making
of the
games.
different products that you can put into stuff, the naming of the product that comes out in the end. I got the whole block hooked on Gorilla Smeg. Like, fucking hilarious, dude.
Hooked on
And
Gorilla what?
that's endearing.
Oh,
You want to
sorry.
see that. You see yourself in the game, and you feel like you can relate to the person who made it. I don't feel that way with a lot of games, and I haven't for a long time. And I think that's an incredibly important connection to be able to make. It's one of the intangibles of game design, where you feel like your humor, imagination, your interests are shared by the people that made it. You feel vindicated in that. Like you have something in common. And it's called being in touch with your audience.
Amen.
And I think just about anybody can say that this industry has been way out of touch with its audience for a long time.
Amen.
I've played a lot of games since starting this channel, and at this point, I'm starting to feel like these game developers live in an alternate universe. Nothing feels relatable to me. Everything has to be a tangent to what's going on.
They live in their own world. They live in areas normal gamers do not live. They live with, diversity and inclusion in, you know. They live in those types of places, and they work in those types of places, and that's not where we live. We live in the real world. They live in delusional fantasy lands and echo chambers at their offices, just reaffirming each other that gamers are stupid.
Real world.
We're
Everything
not.
has to have a
We
hero
know what
message.
we
Not
like.
everything
We've played enough games to know what we like, and we don't like what you're putting out.
needs to be like that. Just not necessary. $20. Another $20 game goes on to sell millions of copies, making a solo developer a millionaire overnight.
Good
You
for
know,
them.
when this game released and it immediately started to find some popularity, the developer went and put the game on sale. Who does that?
Good
Somebody
for
that wants to make money.
What a good guy. What a nice dude. I wish it was still on sale. I would buy it. I don't really want to spend $20 on that game, though. I'm on a tight budget.
Somebody that knows what you need to do.
Once Human is genuinely one of the strangest games I've ever played, and they just reached out to sponsor
Ooh,
this
tell
video.
me more.
Make a fun game. Make it fairly priced. People buy it. Crazy concept, I know. This isn't rocket science. How many times have I seen these developers that are basically trying to learn astrology to figure out what players want? Maybe if we read their horoscopes. Then you have a game that makes it where you can put horse glaze and chili powder into something to set somebody's hair on fire and give them a long face. Monkey brain like.
Is that what that
Me
does?
like game. Me give money. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. But that scares these C-suite executives because they don't understand the popularity, the virality, the relatability of these games because they can't reproduce it. They can't crack the code on this kind of thing. And because of that, their only answer is to suppress it. It's actually kind of insane how often we're seeing some of these viral indie hits run straight into some form of cold corporate or bureaucratic resistance, whether it's from platform policies, rating
you
boards,
don't need
legal
that much,
ambiguity,
man.
or flat out attempts to suppress or discredit them. There is a growing pattern here. A developer releases something fresh and unexpected, it takes off, and suddenly they're in the crosshairs. Not because they did anything wrong, but because they succeeded outside of the system.
'Cause they did
When you take a
everything
moment to
right.
look at the legal and bureaucratic minefield that these indie developers have to tiptoe around just to be able to release a game, it's genuinely surprising that we ever see anything original at all. The modern gaming landscape isn't built to encourage creativity. It's structured to protect existing power, intellectual property, and investor interests. In some ways, the system is designed to suffocate innovation unless it's coming from an approved source. I mean, Balatro got
It's sad, but it's so true.
slammed by ratings boards for supposedly promoting gambling just because it used poker hands in a scoring system despite no real gambling mechanics being in the game whatsoever. Pal World came under fire for copying Pokemon, even though the gameplay is wildly different because Nintendo's patent net is so wide that even
And it's disgusting because that's almost what put Nintendo out of business when they started, because someone tried to do the exact same thing to them, and now here they are living long enough to see themselves become the villain.
breathing now seems like it's lawsuit worthy. I mean, while in litigation with Pocket Pair, Nintendo is still trying to file new patents to retroactively catch them on. It's reaching a point where making a game that even feels familiar or is using visual shorthand that players understand can get you pulled from storefronts and buried in lawsuits. Now we have Schedule 1 going through the same mess, originally reported on by Andrew Heighton of Insider Gaming in an article titled Schedule 1 being investigated for IP copyright infringement claims. They write, evidence on the investigation surfaced on a website, Pab Business, featuring a document entitled Movie Games SA 17-2025, decision to commence investigation against the creators of Schedule 1 production for claims regarding the infringement of the issuer's IP and related to committing an act of unfair competition against it. Movie Games SA has its own series of drug dealing games, Drug Dealer Simulator 1 and Drug Dealer Simulator 2. While the name is more overt than its goal,
Yeah, I saw the screenshots of some of those. Looked boring and awful.
both titles have attracted
see why
thousands
he's
of players
threatened.
respectively. The legal document mentions potential infringement of the issuer's intellectual property rights and activities that bear characteristics of unfair competition have been identified. Ergo, Schedule 1 is too similar to the Drug Dealer Simulator series. Proceedings began as soon as Schedule 1 released on March 24th and featured a comparative analysis of the IP, which includes Drug Dealer Simulator and Drug Dealer Simulator 2 and the Schedule 1 project. The investigation is strongly looking
Can't just
into
leave
elements of the
little
game's
guy
plot, mechanics, as well as UI user interface. It finishes by saying, the issuer will immediately inform about further actions related to the pursuit of claims regarding the infringement of the issuer's IP and the act of unfair competition in subsequent current reports. Yeah, I'm gonna take a wild guess here and say the unfair competition they're referring to is the part where Drug Dealer Simulator 1 and 2 combined couldn't even crack 20,000 players while Schedule
I had to chap his hide. All you would do is make it a little bit more cartoony. I don't know what the gameplay loop is for it, but they made a second one, so it couldn't have been terrible.
1 is one of the most talked about and played games on Steam right now. At least with Nintendo and Palworld, you could kind of see where that lawsuit was coming from. The creature designs, the ball throwing mechanics, they were all surface level elements that were echoing Pokemon. Even with Temtem, they got out of the way of Nintendo by making sure they were using cards instead of balls. But this investigation against Schedule 1 feels completely out of pocket. It's not just a stretch, it's embarrassing that they're even trying. I've taken the time to check it out, and Schedule 1 doesn't really share anything structurally significant with their games whatsoever. The crafting, the progression loops, the interface, the tone, it's all completely different. To be honest, Ubisoft has a stronger claim against them ripping off a Far Cry than they do against Schedule 1. In their games, you start off as a low-level pusher working for somebody else, then slowly build out your own operation. It leans way harder into weighing product, micromanaging dead drops, dodging rival gangs, and ferrying shipments across different islands. It's less of a game and more of a chore simulator. Sure, they both have similar themes, but if having drugs as your premise is going to be the trigger for legal action, by that logic, are they going to go after Breaking Bad next? After news of the investigation broke, media outlets jumped the gun and ran with headlines saying that Schedule 1 was facing an active lawsuit. The internet then did what it does best. Players flooded Drug Dealer Simulator 1 and 2 with negative reviews, dragging the game into a storm that they weren't ready for. In response to this, the developers posted a statement on Steam clarifying the situation. To paraphrase a little bit, they're saying that there is no lawsuit.
They're not something up. The media were the Karens, as they always are.
Not trying to shut down Schedule 1, and the investigation was only launched after repeated comparisons between the two games raised concerns. Since Movie Games SA is a publicly traded company, they claim that they are legally obligated to investigate potential infringement and disclose it through proper stock market channels,
that's fair.
ESPI. The media then picked it up from there, and the story spiraled out of control. They also then clarified, saying that the developer of Drug Dealer Simulator, Byte Runners, isn't involved at all. It's strictly a publisher-level decision. The post then closes with them insisting that there is no bad blood and that they even sent Schedule 1's developer best wishes before the game blew up. But whether it's legal obligation or damage control, it's clear that this isn't the kind of attention that they were expecting. And this is where things get really weird for me, because there was a second response, and this time it was from the actual developers at Byte Runners, where I think the first response was actually written by their publisher, and it's kind of a plot twist. In a statement that they posted on Twitter, Rafal, the CEO and developer of the Drug Dealer Simulator series, basically said, "We had no idea that this was happening." According to him, the development team wasn't informed of the investigation at all, and they only found out when the story blew up online, claiming that they were just as blindsided as everyone else. He writes, in light of the recent Movie Games versus Schedule 1 legal investigation controversy,
Not that the media cares. The media got what it wanted. A frenzy they could report on. It's 2 reports on the same thing so far.
I would like to state that we, Byte Runners, the development studio behind Drug Dealer Simulator series, do not have any ill intentions towards neither Schedule 1, TVGS, or the game community. Actions taken by our publisher, Movie Games SA, are a part of an internal policy and business interest, which we have no influence over. We were not informed of their plans and were also surprised by this course of action. We are currently in talks with Movie Games on this matter. For now, we do not want to publicly neither condone nor approve of the actions before these talks have come to any conclusions. I think basically this dude is saying, we don't know if it's good or bad for us yet, so we need to wait to figure it out. We would like to ask
Play it safe. Smooth.
everyone on both DDS and Schedule 1 communities to be patient and not spread unnecessary negativity or misinformation. We congratulate the success of
Only the necessary negativity.
Schedule 1 to TVGS and would like every gamer to enjoy and support any game they choose. Our main focus as the dev team is improving the DDS IP, which also includes learning on the Schedule 1 massive success and its and our community feedback on it. All we ask for now is your understanding. The tone here couldn't be any more different from the original Steam post, where the publisher had framed the investigation as a necessary legal procedure. The developer comes off as almost embarrassed by the entire thing. Then they go out of their way to distance themselves from the publisher's actions, saying that they don't condone or approve of anything yet? What does that even mean? And now they're just waiting for internal talks? I'm just going to go with my gut here and say they didn't expect the backlash to be this bad. There is no chance. There is no way that you are going to convince me that your publisher, without any communication, suddenly launched a legal investigation on your behalf using your game as a basis without you knowing anything about it. That is not how legal prep works. To even begin an investigation like this, you need access to build files, source assets, system documentation, something from the development team to be able to make the comparisons necessary for a legitimate IP case. So either you were involved and now you're walking it back, or your publisher went rogue and dragged you into a legal case without any warning and snuck into your office and stole the files. Neither one of those look very good. And even if for whatever reason Byte Runners wasn't involved in this decision, I'm sorry, this is what comes with the territory when you sign up with a publisher. Tyler didn't. He developed and published Schedule 1 himself. Every decision he makes, every success or controversy, it's all on him. But once you hand over the reins to a publisher, you are also signing up for all of their baggage, the legal departments, the investor meetings, the risk management, the corporate damage control. You don't get to opt out when it gets uncomfortable. And the claim that the investigation was already in motion before the game took off, total bullshit. The investigation was formally initiated.
He did not recycle that trash.
On April 3rd. Schedule 1 launched on March 24th, and by the 30th, it had already hit over 400,000 concurrent players. This wasn't
6 days?
Some long-planned legal strategy. Otherwise, why would you guys have sent them a congratulations email? It was a knee-jerk response to getting blown out of the water. I don't know about you guys, but from where I'm sitting, this looks like a textbook case of a publisher, and more likely their board of directors and shareholders panicking over the fact that the game that they backed didn't deliver, while a solo developer just ate their lunch in broad daylight. So now they're trying to claw back some relevance and revenue through legal pressure instead of actually trying to make games that people want to play. It's all retaliatory, it's all bitter, and it reeks of a system that sees creativity as not something to nurture, it's something to control. Now, I actually posted this in a response on Twitter to the Byte Runner CEO's letter to the players, but I basically said, yeah, this must suck to be completely powerless in this situation, but this is exactly what you signed up for. And honestly, the more that I think about it, this probably explains why so many of these self-published indie games are blowing up, while these smaller studios tied to these tiny publishers are scraping by. Creative freedom, no bureaucracy, no boardroom.
See, I didn't know about that. I didn't even consider that. That's interesting. So don't go for a publisher, guys. Just follow your dream. Be your own Rudolph. Guide your own sleigh tonight.
Of guys in suits that are second guessing your every move, just a developer and an idea. And honestly, that's probably the conversation that we really need to be having here, because this isn't just about one game or one legal spat. There needs to be a bigger push towards independence in video game development. Too many of these publishers aren't interested in creating anything. They don't build worlds, they don't design mechanics, they don't tell stories. What they do is manage, and in that management, they influence the industry more than they contribute to it. Their primary goal isn't to support creativity, it's to control outcomes. They want to shape trends, shape players, shape spending habits. And when they fund something, that comes with strings attached, strings that always pull in the direction of risk aversion or maximizing profits. Sure, publishers offer funding and infrastructure, they offer visibility, marketing pipelines, access to networks, but it comes at the cost of freedom, of voice, of innovation. How many times have we heard stories about developers that were pressured into adding in microtransactions that they didn't want to put into their game? Or how many times have we heard about games that were forced to pivot towards live service even when that didn't fit their vision? These decisions rarely come from the development team themselves. They come from people upstairs, people staring at spreadsheets, not playtests, people who see creativity as a variable that needs to be managed, not a driving force. From my perspective, in many ways, publishers become the industrialists of this medium. They're more concerned with scalability and litigation than actually making games themselves. They commodify everything about the creative process. They strip out the rough edges, the weird ideas.
Basically a third party that makes everything worse.
The risk, and replace them with something that fits into their monetization model of the moment. And then they sit back wondering why none of these games are resonating, why they're failing to meet their sales targets. It's not the players that are the problem. It's not the developers that are the problem. It's the layer that's in between, the suits that are trying to systemize everything that's not meant to be a system in the first place. And the more games that we see, like Schedule 1, that are succeeding without them, the more obvious that becomes. You know, I think a lot of these publishers and executives that are running these companies are the biggest barrier to creativity and success for the vast majority of these developers. They don't outright build anything themselves. They just go out of their way to try to control it or squash it if it threatens their margins in any way. And that sucks. Not just for us, the players.
That's what we call the man. And we don't stand for the man around here.
But also for the people that are making these games. I mean, like, patent laws in general in the video game ecosystem just don't make any sense whatsoever. All these layers of red tape for something that just shouldn't be there in the first place. Even if a developer isn't trying to copy something, they're just going to ignore it or try not to be anything like it just out of the implicit threat that comes from legal action. They just stay away from it. That's why we sit back and wonder why
Yeah.
we haven't seen a game like this again, or that, or whatever it might be. You know, in theory, publishers are supposed to.
Yeah, they can't have the little guy rising up and actually doing well. Because there's no room for that because they can't control that. That's basically how the entire world works. The 1% always got their boot on your neck, trying to keep you down, because if you get anything, that's less for them.
To be there, to be able to make things easier for developers. They're supposed to be able to take care of all the noise, and then developers just focus on doing what they do best, making video games, and that's about it. But the minute that you start handing over all of that power, all of a sudden you find out that you don't really get to make a whole lot of decisions on your own anymore. That's what's happened to some of these people. When you get in bed with these guys, this is the end result of that. They go out and attack your competition. How does that feel? I can't imagine that feels very good. These guys are creatives. They want to make games. They want other people to be inspired by their work and make games of their own. And now you have to sit back and watch what happens. I'm sorry, man, but you're not innocent in that. And, you know, we feel the effects of it, too, without a doubt. We still get some great games, but at the exact same time, I mean, I've had a really weird feeling that things have just kind of felt samey for a really long time. Very samey, very safe in a lot of cases.
That's about.
And I think that comes from the fact that, you know, if any game tries to make a game like Pokemon, they're going to get scared away, or they're going to get sued into oblivion. So many mechanics. I mean, look at the way that Nintendo has litigated and patented just about everything. Sony's been doing the same thing. Look at WB Games and the Nemesis system. Something that would revolutionize RPGs, and we'll never see it. Ever.
I don't know. I feel like one
They're
day
such a poison.
it'll get loose. It'll get loose, and we're gonna get some good games. We're gonna get some bad games out of it, but we're gonna get some good games out of it.
To this industry. It's insane. And you look around and notice almost every single one of these breakout hits have always been self-published. And in some cases where these developers did go through a publisher, the only reason they did that was to be able to protect their identity. There needs to be more options for that. That needs to be nurtured and taken care of. There needs to be more developers that are making games themselves, publishing games themselves, and there needs to be an easier way for these guys to get onto platforms without the need of a publisher. There's already ways for them. You don't even need publishers anymore. Sure, for like legal and patent and stuff like that, hire a lawyer, man. Why are you handing away all of your profit, all of your control to a bunch of people that don't want to have anything to do with the creative process whatsoever? It just doesn't make any sense. You can promote your games online with no problem. Balatro had next to no marketing whatsoever. Schedule 1 had next to
Just an addictive formula. And once someone tasted that drug, they passed it on to somebody else. Gotta bring everyone down with you into the Balatro hole.
no marketing whatsoever. Valheim had no marketing whatsoever.
Speaking of which, Balatro is on Game Pass. Dare I play Balatro as well?
There's so many more examples that I could give of games that never had an ad or a commercial or anything like that. They were just on Steam. People played it. People liked it. Spread by word of mouth. Fair price, good game. People go buy it. As far as it needs to go. That's what needs to happen. We need more of it. And I want that to be a big focus. I think Steam is the leader in that. Steam's definitely the one that's been pushing and helping a lot.
Steam was absolutely needed in the industry. If we were just stuck with consoles, we'd all be so miserable. We would have so few games that we actually wanted to play, and everything would just feel boring and mundane and repetitive. Have you seen all the crap that Sony has been remastering over and over and over?
A lot of these indie developers be able to find their legs in the industry, and I appreciate that. I think everybody does. There's a lot of games that we would have never had if it wasn't for Steam. So, thank God for Gavin. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video,
I always
like
enjoy
the
your
video,
videos,
subscribe
buddy.
to the channel, comment down below, share the video to your friends, share it on social media, come watch me on Twitch, come join the Discord.
Yeah, everything he said, minus the Discord, but for me as well. Give us both likes and subs, and comment down below. If you've played Schedule 1, what's your favorite part about it? Did you enjoy it? If you haven't, why not? What has prevented you from joining in this cultural phenomenon of doing the drugs, smoking the reef? Wink, you know what I'm talking about? All right, I'll catch you guys later. Stay safe, stay hydrated, take care of yourselves, and take care of somebody else. You both deserve it. Mwah.